If there are men watching this, just be a great mentor and a sponsor for a woman, because it'll actually improve your company.
Welcome, Sheila. Good to see you today.
Thanks, Tina.
The company that you launched was about connecting caregivers to the people who need them, right, digitally. You're one of only 27 female CEOs who head up companies on the S&P index. It's a paltry number. What gives?
There's a lot of challenges. I think it really does start with the pipeline. And if there's one thing that I could at least wish that we start with, is adding more female VCs. Because having more women on the investment side will fund more female founders, giving women the chance to scale, and investors coach their companies, especially more women on boards, to actually help it grow.
You have a very strong personal story, which is really behind the founding of Care.com. Tell me about what happened in your own life that ultimately gave birth to your extraordinarily successful company.
I was born and raised in the Philippines, and I came here for college, and I went to a women's college, met my husband, and we got pregnant at a very young age, between my sophomore and junior year. And given that my parents were living in the Philippines and we were immigrants, and my husband's parents were deceased, we didn't really have a lot of care options. We had to go through college and our careers to try and make ends meet and figure out the care situation. And then fast forward, when our younger son was born and I was working at a startup, I asked and begged my parents to come to the United States to take care of the little guy, Adam. And my father was carrying him up the stairs and fell backwards and had a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And so at 29 years old, I became part of the sandwich generation, not something that I expected. But here I was working at a technology company, and I was using the yellow pages to look for care. I knew something was not right, and that millions and millions of families, including myself, needed a different solution because care was so fragmented, and we needed it to work, to just make ends meet.
So you saw obviously a real gap here, and it took another 5 years for you to launch your company. How did you get the money to do that?
Well, in the beginning, I found that I still had a lot to learn as an entrepreneur. In fact, as a woman and as a leader, in each stage, somebody encouraged me to say, "You're ready to be a director. You're ready to be a VP." And I said, "No, I'm not." And they said, "You're ready to be a CEO." And I said, are you kidding? Of course not.
So, I mean, you obviously lacked that confidence, and other people saw that you had the gifts to do it. What is that lack of confidence from? Is this a quintessential thing that women suffer from?
I think there's this sense of an expectation of perfection and a sense of pleasing. And in the perfection, we want to check all the boxes before we take a job. And we've seen men who are offered a job who may not even have the credentials and say, "I'll take it." A woman, on the other hand, will say, "I'm not sure. I still have all these things to learn." And there's this sense of that lack of confidence. And now that I mentor young women, I'm constantly pushing them in the same way that both my male and female mentors did for me.
How do we change the whole sort of structure of the way we approach care and women working?
There's a huge demand for care. First of all, $280 billion is spent on care every year just in this country alone between childcare and senior care. There's a growing, it's 10,000 seniors are turning 65 every single day. There's a huge market from a business standpoint. Now then you look at the supply of care. We've got a fundamental problem. We've got a challenge in this country. So the way I saw this is use a for-profit venture to prove a business model, to solve and create systemic change, to create social change, because we are going to run into a problem. If we want economic growth in the world, we want women to work. But women can't work if there's not great care. There's not a great infrastructure around it. I really believe it takes a village to build an entire care structure. Care.com, we can't do it alone.
How did you solve your own care questions? How did the balancing act work in your own home? What are the challenges, particularly for a woman who's taking an entrepreneurial path with childcare? If it's your company, you can't leave.
Look, love being an entrepreneur, I love the flexibility. The reality is I need to feel comfortable asking for help and outsourcing the things that are necessary in the home for me to get stuff done. And secondly, the trade-offs that you would have to make, especially in the early days, with regards to sleep, flexibility of the things you want to do, to be able to watch things at school, of plays and games, and those are constant trade-offs and challenges when you're running a company. And so I often advise young women to say, be clear about those choices and understand, know your passions, but know the trade-offs and decisions you'll have to make. And that is the reality. I don't believe it's difficult to have it all.
We constantly hear about the attrition of women who drop out of the company. They're on the sort of the CEO path, if you like, and then they drop out. How does it work? How do we change corporate culture?
I think having women in the boardroom, women on the leadership team, to understand policies around flexibility, providing care benefits. The most important thing is to provide tools and resources so that people can make a choice.
Of course, the other question that women face tremendously is, okay, so they made the choice to go off-ramp and be with their kids for 3 or 4 years. They want to come back on. What do you say to women who make that choice in terms of getting back into the mix and being able to kind of pick up their careers where they left off?
I get asked by a lot of companies that we provide care.com benefits for their workforce the question of, well, why aren't you also helping the off-ramp to kind of keep them in the workplace? That's when we co-founded a company, Lisa Skeet Tatum and I, called Landit. And it's actually creating a playbook for women to build their confidence, whether they off-ramp or they decide to stay part-time at work, with regards to the kinds of things they need to work on, their personal branding, skills development.
What words of advice would you give to the young woman who is dreaming of starting her own company? What's your biggest advice?
2 words: authentic boldness. Find your true self, your true passion. Don't be afraid to take risks, to let that out. Experiment with it. Over-project if you have to, and then ratchet it back. And then the boldness, take those risks. That is the only way you're going to learn.
And make sure you have good care at home.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tina.